Man, that Super Bowl ad was so stupid. I mean, she doesn't need a Diet Coke. She really needs a sandwich. Oh, wait, what? It's on Netflix? What? Wait, we got. Hey, Steven, we
Yeah.
have the new Cloverfield movies on Netflix.
What? Really?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like in April, but now it's here.
What is happening? What is real life right now? This is ridiculous. Like first Cloverfield was viral marketed as like, just a couple months. Then like a month away the first spot happened for Cloverfield Lane. Then this happens, literally at the Super Bowl. By the way, it's on Netflix streaming right now. Next, J.J. Abrams is just going to drop DVDs in everyone's mailbox.
Well, I think DVDs aren't really relevant anymore.
Or,
It'd be more like Blu-ray
Blu-rays,
players.
digital copies, whatever. Just give you a code.
Just like throw them at you like ninja stars.
Exactly.
It'd be like, remember that video game Revolutionary X with Aerosmith where you're like shooting bullets and you also shoot like CDs that explode?
Yeah.
Bing, 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 bing. That was a pretty cool game.
Yep.
So, hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews on episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. This is Tyler from End Credit Reviews.
And Stephen from Stephen Lawson Studios.
And this is a review on the movie The Cloverfield Paradox. Now, what's interesting is that originally this movie was supposed to come out in April, and it was originally called The God Particle, or just God Particle, or something like that. However, on Super Bowl weekend, after all the lame, cringy commercials, there was this one for
Redeeming.
this movie that completely shocked not just myself, but also Steven, that it's on Netflix. And we're like, what?
Yeah, I seriously couldn't believe it. I honestly, during that time, I think I was with a friend who isn't really into sports. I'm not really into sports either, so we weren't tuning in really. And then all of a sudden, there's this thing for Cloverfield Paradox that was like on my timeline, and I'm like, so just completely flip my shit as soon as this happens, and I have to see what it's about. And it looked crazy weird, and had to just go see it right away. And I honestly thought, like, I wouldn't put it past the Cloverfield guys to literally have. It said on the commercial, Cloverfield Paradox available tonight, and for some reason I interpreted that as it's going to go away after tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
me too.
So I just went straight home and clicked that shit super hard, and I had to find it.
Yeah, I watched it the next day after class and that. It was on afternoon I watched it. So anyway, I think we should talk about what the plot of this movie's about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So pretty much the movie, The Cloverfield Paradox, is about a bunch of scientists from around the world are in outer space and they're trying to find a new memes of...
Memes.
I caught myself. Wait a minute. New memes, not new memes. I guess someone touched my spaghetti, got overused
That's
and
right.
that, and they now need to find another gold mine.
You do not know the way.
You can always resurrect some old memes like John Cena.
Yeah. Gosh, that's old now, man. Memes perish like fruits and vegetables these days, just super fast.
Yeah, so basically all these scientists from around the world are working on this new thing of energy called the God Particle, and they're in outer space because I guess it's too dangerous and that. However, when they turn it on at one point or another, because they've been in outer space for years, a lot of weird stuff goes on. For one, the Earth is no longer there. I mean, worst case scenario, they blew up the Earth, so it's like, okay, we pretty much invented the Death Star now. Or maybe they got teleported somewhere in outer space. And my question is, and I'm surprised this never got brought up in the movie, is like, why not just look at the stars, like the constellations? You can kind of tell maybe where you are at.
Well, the thing was, not to interrupt, but basically they did end up doing that. They had
I don't remember it.
It was like a computer program or something that they ended up using, and it just made them reinterpret the star map and realize, oh yeah, there's the Earth, and then it showed it like zoomed in to realize that they basically did just transport. And
Yeah.
the machine, to be specific, it was called the Shepherd. It wasn't the God Particle. It
Yeah.
it dealt with cryptically called God particles, which have been discussed as a real thing in science today. But
Yeah, no, but also in addition to that, that's the one of the many weird things that happens. Apparently, a lot of strange things happen. For example, a guy's arm gets teleported and it goes missing, and also some worms disappear and reappear. In addition, there is a new crew member that they have, and apparently they're in some kind of alternate timeline or universe, and they're trying to figure out not just how to get back to Earth, but also how to get back to their reality. Meanwhile, we cut to Earth where some really bad things are happening.
absolutely.
That they're pretty vague about it, and it kind of connects to the previous Cloverfield movies.
And some of that we don't even realize until the very ending. Like, it's clear that there's some cryptic stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
it's been kind of spoiled. Like, you can look at they pretty much show the ending on IMDb when it comes to the image stills and that,
Yeah.
which we'll get to at the end for kind of a spoiler segment in a way. All right, so with the cast of this movie and that, the character of Hamilton, played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw,
Gugu Mbatha-Raw, I think.
Okay. I gotta say that, I liked her as the main character of the movie, at least, someone to kind of relate to. And also I think what helped too was that I think she's kind of hot as well.
Check. Yeah.
Move over, Kerry Washington.
Yeah, her and her significant other separated by, the reaches of space. I thought that was a good setup that was very interesting. Some of the other characters hit or miss.
We'll get, yeah.
But dynamic, I thought, was pretty well established.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up that relationship in that, because I felt like the part where she's like, looking at the video footage of her and her family on this, like, pretty much the window thing. I just like that was kind of weird. You already have kind of a computer monitor, so it's kind of questionable why it's also on the window.
Sure.
As well. And also, another character that really stood out to me was Daniel Bruhl as Schmidt, the Zemo from... Yeah, trying to look for Mission Report.
Zemo wannabe, yeah. Because...
Yeah, pretty much, like, that's why I thought of him as soon as he's looking up computers, like, I'm looking for Mission Report.
Same.
By the way, I mean, I don't know if it's his cheeks or whatever. Like, the guy's not out of shape whatsoever, but with his cheeks and that, I don't know, it kind of gives off the impression that the guy may have been fat when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And probably lost a lot of weight, and there's kind of some stretched skin marks and that.
Baby
I
fat
don't know.
left over, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I liked him in this movie. He was pretty interesting in that, and also there's also this kind of a tension on the ship and that between him and some of the other crew members, like, oh, your country is at odds with my country at the time, but also there's some things because in alternate realities characters are different, and thus there's a lot of second guessing, and people seem to be kind of untrustworthy. Also, David Oelio, or how do you pronounce his last name?
Owe Luau or something, I think.
Yeah, didn't he play Martin Luther King in that Selma movie?
I think he did. I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was him in that. I feel like he did a pretty good job as, like, the guy who was supposed to be from America, and Daniel Bruhl's character was from Germany.
I have a dream that one day we will not be ruled over by Cloverfield monsters.
And no more Fast and Furious movies.
Amen.
And the Boondock speech that I gave should be more known.
Yes.
Yeah. One character I was kind of iffy about was John Orts as Monk, the guy from Brazil.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd, because wouldn't it make more sense to have a guy from India?
Yeah, he was an example of several characters that were just, they were there. I mean, they didn't provide a whole lot. And, of course, with any sort of team situation, there's going to be a short end of the stick. But there were several that just felt like, at some point these people are going to be cannon fodder,
Yeah,
So-
I mean, yeah. I liked how there's some interaction with some of the characters of their jokes now. I like how the Russian guy was like, well, we're definitely not in Tennessee anymore. And the guy corrects him, it's Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like that. But back to John Ort's character, Monk. I mean, I remember you said I didn't like him in Kong Skull Island and some other movies, and yeah, in this movie, yeah, I didn't really care for him either. I guess he's been typecast as a character. It's like, yeah, he's there, but he's there to be part of the body count.
Yeah.
In that, but I loved him in Silver Linings Playbook. I love that movie.
I haven't seen that yet.
You should watch it.
Okay.
And also, have you seen 500 Days of Summer?
I have not seen that.
Oh yeah, you gotta watch that one too. It's awesome. I mean, I swear the first gag in that movie, like the first joke, is an instant home run. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
In the beginning of the film.
I'll have to check that out.
But also, there's who plays, I guess, person representing China is Tam, played by Zia
Zhang, I think.
something like that. Maybe if she's on top of things, call her ZZ Top.
Okay.
Well, yeah, she had like a relationship with Daniel Bro's character, but also it was kind of odd how sometimes she had subtitles when she spoke Chinese, but other times when she was speaking Chinese, it was like, wait, what is she saying?
I have seen plenty of movies in multiple languages: French, German, Japanese. So many movies, shows, they have these weird things of like, they'll have subtitles for quite a while, and then literally a sentence or two will go by and there's nothing. And it's like, okay, maybe in one of those situations it was a game of catch up because this particular sentence in English was like 2 in Japanese or in Chinese, but not in every case. It's like sometimes the subtitle people are just like, we're going to give up for about 20 seconds here because I'm done. I'm clocking out.
Yeah, I know.
So-
I mean, I can understand if, the character says like yes or no. I mean, that's pretty simple what they're going for. Or maybe just like laughter. Like everyone knows laughter. It's not like, stares in Japanese or cries in Spanish.
Yeah.
If you've seen those kind of memes, which are great.
They are. Even like nodding or facial expressions, that can mean something too, but like some indication here. Come on, not just, just yattering on for 15 seconds and acting like, oh yeah, we can totally understand.
Yeah, no, I mean, some stuff means different in different cultures. Like, I remember on the, making of the first Star Wars movie, one of the guys who was involved with that movie actually attended a screening in Japan, and they were all pretty much dead silent in that movie, and he was kind of worried like they didn't like it, but actually in the Japanese culture, I guess silence is golden, and that meant they loved it.
Yep.
She's like, oh, okay, that, kind of worried me, but okay, they loved it. That's awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
But also, I think one character that came, much later in the movie, but was a character that obviously came from the other alternate reality that they were teleported to, was Elizabeth Debicki as Jensen. And I gotta say, like, I've seen her in a lot of movies recently. Like, she was in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as that one queen that was all in gold.
Yeah.
And also she was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. as the villain.
I don't think I saw that one. But
She was in The Great Gatsby as the dark-haired girl, I think, that
okay,
Troy
yeah.
McGuire's character might have been into, and that sort of thing. Yeah, what do you think of her in this movie?
I thought she was fine. I wasn't... She served her purpose. I don't want to get into spoilers about her, but she...
Later.
Yeah. She was fine. Something was definitely, from the moment we saw, there were a lot of weird things going on in this, but she especially, there was kind of something like, about her. But ultimately, I think she served her purpose, and it was fine. She wasn't the most compelling part of it, I would say. I would still definitely say it was the 2 protagonists, as well as the people who know the Cloverfield universe, understanding that this is building up towards something else big. So, to me, she was just part of the story. She served her purpose for a conflict on that ship, and she was fine.
Yeah, I agree that she was fine, all right. But I don't know, I mean, yeah, I think she's pretty attractive, but I don't know, I think because with, her blonde hair and that, and she's pretty tall, she's kind of like the equivalent of a giraffe. In a way.
And a half looking.
I mean, seriously, if you see her standing up next to everybody in the cast, even like the really tall guys, she's towering over everybody.
Yeah, she's kind of in that regard similar to the woman in Game of Thrones and who plays Colonel Phasma in
I thought it was Captain Phasma.
or Captain Phasma. Yeah.
Whatever. Chrome Dome.
Yeah. She, like, I don't think you can necessarily tell in that role, but, like, especially in Game of Thrones, she is a giant. And
Yeah, I think she's like 6'5", and I think this other actress is also about that height.
so it just makes sense for these women that, like, there's something similar and menacing almost about how big they are. I don't want to be super judgmental.
I know it's like,
But-
only basketball players have a chance with them, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, when it came to her acting, all seriousness, yeah, it was good in that. I think she's a pretty solid actress in that regard. But I want to bring her back up when we get into spoilers and that.
Yeah.
Now, with the effects in this movie were pretty good, I gotta say. I like the visual effects for the ship that they're on, and also the weird stuff, like the stuff with the nanites and with the worms that we see later, and especially the severed hand, actually severed arm, pretty much that was like moving around, like that looks super realistic, and I think I know how they did it, but it wasn't just like, oh, it's a CGI arm and that, which would look, too cartoony. It would kind of like, remember Jack the Giant Slayer where all the giants were like CGI'd? And it's like, you could have just gotten these actors in makeup and costume and superimposed them look bigger and it would look a lot more realistic.
True.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, there was pretty interesting stuff, like a, scary horror thriller that they're going for in the movie. And yeah, I mean, the only character I really feel for is that of Hamilton's character. I just feel like it's kind of odd because, it's a woman, but she's referred to as Hamilton. And I don't know, maybe the main character's name was Hamilton to, appeal to the millennials who are into that Hamilton musical.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Just random thought.
I didn't particularly take any special meaning from her name. I guess maybe there could be something to like Alexander Hamilton. I don't know, but
there was no like questionable rap and high historical inaccuracy.
But yeah, I mean she was solid, and I agree very much on the visual effects. Like, especially for this being a straight to Netflix thing, you can definitely get some serious hits and misses. And in terms of the visual effects with this was a hit. I mean, this could have been... I know some people will probably have contentions with this, but I mean, this overall, in terms of how it looked at least, could have probably been released in theaters in some capacity. Maybe not for the same length of time as, regular movies, like for a weekend or 2 weekends instead of a whole month, but it definitely, from a production standpoint, looked pretty solid. And the only exceptions were, I don't want to get into spoiler territory here again, but there were a couple scenes on Earth where they're showing clearly something that connects back to the other two movies in the problem that's happening down on Earth. And it's clear that they purposefully kind of vaguely don't show clearly what's happening there to be cryptic. But also, I think from a practical standpoint, it was because they didn't want to blow the whole budget on special effects for, several shots in those regards. They wanted to throw most of their money at the ship and things like that. So,
yeah, I mean, a few things about that is, I think originally this was supposed to be its own original movie, kind of like what 10 Cloverfield Lane was originally supposed to be about. I think it was called The Cellar.
Mm-hmm.
However, with this one, I think, J.J. Abrams' production company, Bad Robot, brought the, film rights to it, and they probably refilmed stuff to tie into the Cloverfield movies. And I feel like the parts with Hamilton's significant other on Earth and that, those kind of, in a way, kind of came off a tad bit as kind of shot later or added in some way. And also, there are some obvious references to the other Cloverfield movies, especially the bobblehead with the Slurpee. If you remember from the special features from Cloverfield, which are, it's like very cryptic in that. But also,
have you seen the ridiculous theory? I mean, it's clear that the Cloverfield universe is all together, but there are things showing that, like, Tagmurato, the organization that's in the first one that has some cryptic conspiratorial thing going on with this whole situation, that it also showed up in Lost and a couple things, and Slusho even showed up in Kenan and Kel, the like comedy show. So people are like, confirmed Kenan and Kel as part of the Cloverfield universe. So
yeah, I like to see them make like a podcast or whatever during the crisis.
That would be hilarious.
Maybe that'll happen to us. Some big crisis happens. We document it.
Right.
Pretty much like going around like we're trying to make funny one-liners, and later, hundreds of years later, historians say, this is the actual footage in that. And yes, I know these aren't the most expertorial persons to, document this, but it's the best that we have.
These incredibly irritating shit posters are the extent of the footage available. So please take their commentary with whatever degree of salt you want. Look at that motherfucker! Like,
yeah, I gotta disagree with them.
But yeah, that'd be funny.
I mean, we ain't crack.com or cracked, the.
Oh sure,
yeah. I feel like that'd be a lot worse. But anyway, back to what I was saying was that. But also with this movie itself, I mean, yeah, there's parts where they probably did refilm some stuff to tie into the Cloverfield universe and that. But yeah, I did like this one. I feel like, I mean, I think originally when it was supposed to come out, it was supposed to come out with that around the time that Rampage movie, which, I mean, I'm into giant monster movies, but I'm like, pass.
Painful attempt at a cash grab right there. That it even comes out on 420 like, psst, come high, you'll enjoy it that way. Like, it just, that looks like a painful attempt at trying to,
or put Tommy Wiseau as the lead. Yeah. But I think we should talk about spoilers right now.
Sure.
So fast forward to this part if you have not seen the movie yet, because we're going to talk about the last 15 20 minutes of the movie. So pretty much the part where Jensen, the character of Jensen, turns out that she's trying to take over the space station to try to, set things right, even though, like, bad things are going to happen, and her and the other crew members are fighting, and that sort of thing. And the part where she's, like, fighting with Hamilton's character, I noticed she kind of drooled a little bit, and I'm like, is this that Kennedy guy who gave that speech recently?
Yeah, JFK's like, what was it?
Ask not what you can drool for your country, what your
country can drool on you.
Oh yeah, it's hard for me to unsee that. It's nasty. But yeah, I mean, well, then again, I don't know if Taylor Swift dated that Kennedy, but I don't know. It kind of shows how low her standards are. Random joke, folks. And then the part where she gets like sucked into like outer space with that window and that. I thought it was going to be that scene from Alien Resurrection where the, alien xenomorph gets, like, sucked in violently.
Seriously,
and I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad. It wasn't violence. Okay, at least, the fine-looking chick got spared that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. And then I will say my favorite part of the movie was, well, not only do things actually seem to actually go right for once in these movies where the... God particle actually turns out fine. Like, it's funny how it's like purple, like they're trying to summon the power of Prince in a way.
Purple rain.
Yeah, it explodes and rains down. You hear the song Purple Rain music cues play in the script.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't come back to Earth. And then last shot, we see the Cloverfield monster rising up from the clouds.
Yeah, clearly bigger than he's ever been before. And to be clear, this probably isn't even the same monster. It's implied to be because this is set later to be probably a different monster, if not one of many, because from the vast amount, let me say here at first, I am a huge Cloverfield nerd from the very first one. And like I read over the first anime or manga that came out that was kind of having some story somewhat to do with the film release. And it, what was I going to say about this? Is basically, what were we just talking about?
The ending of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Ending of it.
But basically, we can see from the drawings at the end of that manga that were supposed to be connected to this, in addition to some further like files in the extra material on the bonus disc for Cloverfield that you have to unlock. It's implied that the monster came from the ocean, and between that and the manga, there are several eggs to which are still at the bottom of the ocean. So it was clearly implied this is not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of just confirms that even if one was killed, which is debatable, there are plenty more to come. But that also ties in more questions to like, okay, well, the aliens in 10 Cloverfield Lane, how do they come in? They definitely have something weird with the whole transorganic situation of like metal and biological ships together.
And also because of the whole God particle, they probably made the timelines like clash, or kind of in a way teleported them there.
Yeah, and like the biggest thing to take away from this series is, I mean, they talk, well, not this series, but this film in particular, is they're clearly building something off of the significance of multiple universe timelines. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a multiverse happening, and there's actually a great guy that deserves a shout out here, Jason Markey on YouTube. He did this whole diagram that basically has a pretty coherent way of explaining how the universe is kind of developing in Cloverfield, and the possibility of where it might be going come Cloverfield Overlord, which is the one set in Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, it's been kind of rumored in that where but I heard it might be more supernatural stuff or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, what would you give this movie, Steven?
Well, I did like this movie. To me, it, for a few reasons, was not quite as good as the prior two films. I know lots of people are just pooping on it 20 minutes after it was released. And that some of it seems pretty questionable to me. It was not perfect, and I think that some of all of the crazy things it was juggling with multiple universes, and in addition, from a production standpoint, the fact that they might have thrown a couple stories together to make this a thing, and as fast as it came out on Netflix, there could be some consistency consistency problems, or connecting the entire universe. But at the same time, you can't be sure of that, because they mention in the beginning that this whole experimentation of the God particle, it could not only release demons, that's been implied for Overlord, aliens, which was in Cloverfield Lane, monsters from the sea in the first Cloverfield. But basically, it also deals with time as well. So all these various delineations, like the Cloverfield monster appearing in 2008, while also in 2030, apparently there's still being the situation in a different capacity, that could still fit in the framework because of these various multiversal timelines. I think that the protagonist in this film was great. I think it started off really strong, and the very ending came out pretty good. A bit of the second and third act, I think, was a bit messy, And there is some valid criticisms for that that are worth noting in terms of like pacing and kind of how there was a struggle to get the shepherd to function right the first time, but then conveniently at the end they kind of just with a couple people managed to get it get their act together and get back. That was a little questionable, but at the same time it was still fun, still worth seeing. Would definitely recommend it, especially because it's on Netflix. You can see it for free, and I would definitely recommend this. But I would probably give this something in the score range of about an 83 to an 84%. That feels about right from my standpoint.
Okay. Well, I agree with a lot of what you said about the movie. I mean, the movie itself, actually, for me, I thought it started off pretty strong and pretty interesting, at least the first half.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, in some way, in the second half, I kind of felt like it kind of started to lose its appeal a little bit to me in some ways. There's one scene in this movie that just felt really forced and kind of, hey, we're gonna be foreshadowing, is that scientist character on the news played by Donald Logue, that guy who plays Bullock in Gotham. And I just felt like this should have been cut from the movie.
Are you talking about the guy who was...
Yeah, the scientist guy. That's on the news and that.
I disagree. I thought that was...
I felt like that was kind of forced. That was kind of like obvious foreshadowing. And also, why is this guy on the news, but he's not on the space shuttle if he knows so much, knowledge and detail about it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, don't want to interrupt you too much here, but the last name connection with I think it was Don or whoever was the creepy guy in Cloverfield Lane. There is probably some sort of family connection, and possibly is this a different universe where he's just some other conspiracy buff, but instead he published a book.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about like, oh yeah, these guys are wrong, so I'm right. Here's my book to buy it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I felt like that should have been a different character that was kind of more important. That didn't feel so forced and so brief.
I suppose.
And I thought the effects were pretty good for this movie. And in a way, I was looking forward to it coming out in theaters, but in a way, I'm kind of happy that I didn't pay money to see it in theaters. But I thought it was enjoyable. I mean, I think it's pretty low with the critic score for this movie, as well as what IMDb user scores are. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a little bit too low, but kind of understandable. It's my least favorite in the Cloverfield movie so far. Let's just hope what Overlord is... Well, actually, let's see what Overlord's going to bring us. Yeah. Yep. So as for the Cloverfield Paradox, I would give it about 2.5 stars out of 4.
Okay, yeah, that might be a little lower than I'd give it, but...
Yeah, I know, I understand and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Yep, so this is Tyler from Critter Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
Yes, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on Critter Reviews. And we hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.
Also, be aware, it's still alive.
Brought to you by J.J. Abrams.